So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build AI agents, workflows in this case, using the new OpenAI agent builder plus ChatKit. So the idea here is not only to show you how to build agents or agentic workflows with the new agent builder. The idea is that I'm going to show you that, but also I'm going to show you what is a little bit more difficult, which is how do you deploy these agents really so that you can actually use them on your website and all of that. First, I'm going to show you how to put together an agentic workflow using the agent builder, and then we're going to test it. After we've done the testing, I'm going to show you how you would deploy those agents locally, the workflows, and also deploy them on your website or a remote website per se, so that you are able to leverage the agent builder, but also ChatKit, which is a way for you to embed the workflows that you're building so that people can actually use. You can add them to your website as a chatbot, for example. And that is what we're going to be doing in this course. Now, before we get started, I would like to invite you to join AI Foundations community, where myself and 4 other AI coaches are always available to help you with your questions weekly. We have weekly calls, by the way, but also you will have access to other members who are immersed into AI. They're building AI businesses. They're making money with AI. So we have a plethora of different people who are using AI. When you join our community, not only will you have access to all of the courses, resources that we provide, you will also have access to 5 AI coaches, myself included, who are there to help you along the way. So every week we have Q&A calls where you can show up and ask questions and we help you. So it's pretty sweet. I would love to see you in our community. Check the link in the description, AI Foundations community. It's my favorite place, but I'm biased. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get started here with OpenAI AgentKit, which means we're going to go and look at what it is, how it works. So we're going to go pretty quickly here into understanding what is AgentKit, which contains, of course, the builder, agent builder, and all of other components. All right, so let's look at AgentKit. AgentKit is essentially a modular toolkit for building, deploying, and optimizing agents. So think of all these pieces here. So we have the building side of things, we have the deployment, so you're able to deploy these agents, and of course you can optimize as the agents are working and things are actually happening. So AgentKit, what it does is it provides the tools which allows you to build agentic workflow or agent workflows, and not only build them, but you're going to be able to deploy using a customizable user interface, and of course optimize performance and make it all fast and reliable. So that is the promise of AgentKit. Now, let's look at the building blocks. So we talked about the build. So then we have deploying and we have optimization. So this really mirrors any sort of software development workflow, right? You build, you deploy. Of course, there's things that happen in between, but you keep iterating and optimizing to make your agents better. So when we're building these agents workflows, we need access to models, right? We need access to tools for these agents to be able to call upon. Of course, prompts are very important because we need to leverage the large language models and what they can do, but also guardrails to make sure that these agents can reject inputs and set them up for success so that they're not hijacked, and then therefore making sure that there's not a lot of hallucination. So guardrailing is very important for safety. In the deployment side of things, we have a user interface which is attached to it. So we'll see once we build these agents, we're able to create a user interface that is on top of our agents workflow. And then we're able to take this user interface and put in a website or any other applications that we may have available. And the optimization, again, is the part where we are going through the optimization process to optimize, making sure that the workflow is actually working optimally. And then, of course, we have the orchestration side of things and observability. This always is an iteration, right? So you go optimization, the orchestration, observability, and then you go back until you have a full-on optimal working agents. Let's look at the AgentKit core components, because Agent Builder actually is part of, as a component of the AgentKit, as the whole sort of tool framework, I should say. Let's look at the AgentKit and all of those components. So first we have the Agent Builder, which we're going to focus a lot of time on, and then we have Agents SDK. So the SDK stands for Software Development Kit. So this is the part where we can use and focus on the code. So you actually are going to be able to look at the code and use the SDK to even customize even more your agents. Okay, so the Agent Builder is the user interface side of things, meaning drag and drop, as we will see, where you're picking all of these pieces, the core nodes, to build out your agents. And the Agent SDK is the code that is generated behind, and you can customize that code. We have ChatKit. So ChatKit is what's used to actually deploy, meaning to take the Agent Builder, create a user interface, and then pull that user interface, which is, of course, can be deployed, which is connected to your workflow, your agentic workflow. Okay, so in this case, we use ChatKit to actually pull the code, deploy, and we can put all of that into a website page that we may have. We have connector registry. We also have eval system. So the eval system is about evaluation to make sure that everything is working properly, and we can see exactly what's happening as our agents are working together in the workflow. So as I mentioned, the Agent Builder, as you will see, is the visual workbench with all the pieces, the pre-assembled parts for you to be able to build agents. All of that is going to be visually. Whereas the Agents SDK, as I said, this is more advanced set of tools which allows developers to actually customize and fine-tune the components, all of that in code. So we're going to focus more on the Agent Builder and ChatKit, and of course a little bit of Agents SDK for those who are more inclined to look at code. And the ChatKit, again, is more for customizing and creating these embeddable user interfaces so that you can embed those into your website. So the idea is that once you have everything built, either using the Agent SDK or directly using Agent Builder visually, you'll be able to embed those UIs which you create with the ChatKit, and of course, deploy them that way. Putting together this kind of content requires a lot of work, so I would really appreciate if you could go ahead and hit that thumbs up. That way I am very happy. You can do it. All right, let's get back to the video. So to build an agent workflow, at the end of the day, you would have the agent workflow set up. So for this to work, you will have to have, or in this case, use an Agent Builder. As you will see, it's a user interface where you can put pieces together. Shortly, I'm going to show you exactly how this works. And with all of that, of course, internally, you're going to be invoking OpenAI models. So you can actually use models to create these agents. And also, you are going to use tools and guardrails for your agentic workflows, or your agent workflows. So these agents will need access to knowledge base, which could be a vector database or files that you insert, or in this case that you upload, and all of that. But also it needs memory. That way our agents have more context of previous conversation. And of course we need to have a way of guiding the workflow. So as these pieces are communicating with each other, we need control flow logic such as if statements, while loops, and all of that. But also you are able to write your own code using the Agents SDK as explained earlier. So this whole ecosystem here on how to build agents, this agent workflow, that's catered to non-coders as well as coders. And that is the beauty of this new tool. Agentic workflows, agent workflows, you use Agent Builder, a canvas, as you will see. For that, you will need OpenAI models as well as tools so that these agents are able to call upon, let's say, search, or call upon an API or any other tool outside of its realm, as well as guardrails, as we said, to make sure that the agent can behave accordingly in many ways. And of course, most importantly, agents need data, so knowledge base, but also be able to remember what has been said before. And we need a way to manipulate the workflow using control flow and logic, just like in coding. And of course, allows us to also customize our code to influence the agent workflow as well. Now, tools allow agents to connect to other resources for more context. So if we have agent workflows, these are able to connect to web search, to go and search the web, file search, so you can actually add your own files to the database, in this case, vector database, image generation as well as tooling, code interpretation, so you can have a tool that interprets code and even writes code, and also have capability of computer use, so allow the agentic workflow or agent workflow to be able to manipulate the computer and so forth. But the most exciting one, in my opinion, is connecting to having connectors as well as MCP servers. So the idea here is that beyond just having web search, you can actually connect to different MCP servers and connect to different services out there so that your agentic workflow is richer in context. So MCP server stands for Model Context Protocol. Essentially is a way that agents are able to tap into other tools out there, remote tools, so that they can get more information and data and so forth. Okay, a more standardized way. Again, don't worry, we're going to go deeper and actually see all of these things in action. In fact, that's what we're going to be doing in the next video. Let's go to Google and say OpenAI's Agent Builder as such. And you can see that we have this Agent Builder. Explore resources, tutorials, and all of that. So click here. And this is going to take you straight to what you need to go. So platform.openai.com, docs, Agent Builder, and all of that. So make sure you're logged in and all should be good. So once you get here, you're going to be seeing a lot of things to the left here, but you want to go to Agent Builder. So this is indeed the documentation. So I would encourage you to come here and learn more of what is going on. Everything that we do in this course is going to be based off this documentation here. And as things change, of course, you need to come back here and look at the changes and updates and all of that. Because again, this is an evolving endeavor here. All right, so what you want to do is click the Open Agent Builder. So click like that. And this should take you straight to the Agent Builder where you can create a flow. So it says build a chat agent workflow with custom logic and tools. And the beauty is in the beginning, you can actually see that you have below here, you should have these samples, templates. So we have data enrichment. You have planning helper, which is a simple multi-turn workflow for creating work plans and all of that. Structured data Q&A to query database using natural language, customer service, and so much more. Okay. So again, this is new. So maybe by the time you're watching this video, they may have added more or changed a few things, but the point is that at least you know how to get here. What we're going to do, let's go ahead and look at this planner help. So if you click here, it's going to give you this. This is the beautiful canvas. So I can actually move around, and depending on what I have set here, it will determine how this works. What I mean by that is as follows. So you can see this is pan. So if you click, this is selected, then you're able to pan around. Okay. So pick something and pan around. If you want to use select or just go to V, right? So this is P or V to select. Then you can actually select one of these items. You can see that you can then move that item around. But once you click that item, you can see that this pops up. So this is a contextual window of some sort that tells you a little bit of the internals of that particular node. What is a node? Well, each one of these pieces are nodes. So we have a starting node, which is always required. And then we have this triage, which is an agent. And then we have if statements and all of that. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is indeed what you call a workflow. We have core nodes. We have tools. As we said, tools allow us to have our agents to be able to talk to other resources outside, like file search, guardrails, MCP, and so forth. And then we have the logic, if-else statements. We have while loop, user approval. And then we have data, right? Transform and set state. And the beauty also is that as you hover over, it tells you exactly what this is all about. So this one is called the model with your instructions and tools. This is the end node. Choose the workflow output. This is node. It's actually, if you click, it's going to add here. So I can actually write something. Hello world like that. So very handy. I can just select and delete key and it goes away. Okay, so these are all notes. Now the other thing you can see here is that at the top I have this publish and I have this preview. So what is this preview? Well, the preview, if you click, it's going to allow you to test the workflow that is here. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here real quick so I can show you, perhaps go over what's going on here. So at the beginning we have a starting point. This is a starting node and you can see the connections. If I click on this connection, you can learn more. So this is an edge, they call it an edge, and we have source is going to be start, which is this guy. The target is going to be the agent. Why? Because the next thing that happens is that targets the agent. Okay, so these edges here are connecting the target. So the agent, this edge, is going to be targeting the if-else node. So each time you click, again, you can see that, for instance, the start, this one defines the workflow input, and we have input variable. Every time we start something, we have this input variable. So essentially, is a variable, is a piece that is going to be holding the input that comes in. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to go to preview again to show you. I'm going to say, for instance, just say something simple, such as, hello there, can you help me today? See what will happen. So it's going to go through the process and get data. Okay, so what happened here? And you can see that all of these are now sort of like colored. So to tell us that things started here, went through the if statement condition, and then decided whether we have all the pieces, all the data, which we don't, and goes to this agent. Now, what I like also is that it tells you exactly, because we're testing here, what's happening. So we start from the starting point, this node, okay, and then we connect it to the triage, and the triage shows here as JSON. So this is just a payload that was generated. So you can see these variables here. So the has all data, all details, initial goal, empty, and we have target time frame, empty, current sources, empty. So the reason why it went through this condition and then went to false and went to get data is because, well, this if statement here, you can see it checks the triage, right? What comes from the triage agent, if we have all the pieces that we need for it to go ahead and launch the actual agent, which will help us with what we're looking for. So what I mean is that if you continue, goes to condition, which went through it, and then it decided to go to this route, which is get data. It says here, happy to help to get started. Could you share a few details? So it needs more data in order for it to actually go and do what we are asking for it to do. So the first thing here, because this is to create a business, help us create a business, help us create a business essentially. So the things that it needs, it's going to tell us is it needs to know what our goals are, what we're trying to achieve. So I can say, I want to build a business in the food industry. Okay, very good. So it's going to go back to ask for get data, right? Because that's not all. It's going to ask for more. So I need to give all the pieces. So next I'm going to say the target frame. When do you want this completed? I want to get it completed by December 2078. Resources, I can say I only have 30 USD available to get started. Okay, let's see what else. That should be good. Now, if I were to run this, what do you think it would happen? Well, it's going to go through this process. If condition, you're going to look, okay, we have all details if that's true. And then we should see the launch helper actually get the agent, which is going to do the work that we want it to do. I'm going to run. So you watch this. So if statement, it got stuff, and launch, still thinking, and I can come here and see what's happening. So the triage has all the details. Okay, pulled all the details. Condition went to yes, and here's a tailored plan to help you start a food business with $30 budget. And timeline until December 27/8. It gives us all the pieces. So just like that, you can see I'm going to just close this preview. So it gets us back to the editing mode of this entire workflow here. So just like that, you can see that we're able to look at a very simple template workflow, agentic or agent workflow that is very simple, but it has a lot of things. Okay, a lot of power here. So in the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how each one of these pieces are working so we can have some ideas on how to assemble pieces together to create our own flows. So as you're watching this video, I want to hear from you. I want you to tell me what you think of this tool. What use cases are you going to find yourself building or putting together? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I would love to hear from you. Okay, now let's go ahead and go back and create our own workflow from scratch. So go back and we're going to say create. Okay, and so the first time we do that, you can see we have the starting point, the start node, and then we have my agent. So click and we can give our name, a name to our agent. Let's call this classifier agent. So what this agent will do essentially is that we want to create an agent that will classify the query or the input that comes in. So the idea is that then we're going to pass that information. The agent is going to classify to sort of a true or false, and then we're going to pass that through an if statement and then go from there. So the idea at the end, we want to have some sort of agent that can decide whether the query implies or the intent is that of figuring out what is the weather going to be like, or if the person is trying to do something else. Very simple. So here's the cool thing, because we need to ground our classifier model, in this case agent, so it knows exactly what it needs to do. Now I can go ahead and write myself here whatever we want, right? To the instructions in this case for the classifier agent, or even better, we can actually click here. This will allow us to actually use OpenAI model to write the prompt for an instruction, in this case for our model, our agent, which is pretty meta, but it helps. So I'm going to say this agent will classify the input query coming in and decide whether it's about the weather or anything else. Okay, make sure it sounds good. It will output, okay, if the intent is the weather, then a variable named is underscore weather will be set to true. Otherwise, it will be set to false. Okay, so this is just sort of an explanation that we can add, and then we're going to click create. So this, okay, click, when we do create, you can see generate. So the AI is actually generating instructions for us. Okay, very nice. So I like this. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit larger so we can see. Look at that. All right, classify incoming input or query by intent to determine if it pertains to weather or to another topic for every input. First, carefully analyze the wording, context, and all of that. Then, based on your analysis, assign the classification. Set the variable is weather to true if primary intent is concerns weather. Set is weather to false for all other intents. So your response must be a JSON object with single key value pair. Very nice. Is weather is going to be either true or false. Do not provide explanation or output anything. This is really, really good. So it went ahead and actually create some examples for grounding here, right? For example 1, if input will it rain in Paris, is weather is going to be true. And example 2, book me a table at 7 p.m. is weather is going to be false. So we didn't have to write all of that, come up with that ourselves, but we use AI to help with that. Very cool. And next, we're going to keep the include chat again so that the agent is able to remember what has happened, the previous interactions. That's real good. And for the model here, I can choose something less expensive per se. Let's just use nano. Very good. Reasoning effort, I can just say low or minimal. Actually, it's fine. Let's say minimal. That's fine. And for tools, we're going to leave as it right now. Now, the important part here is that the output, it says text. We need to change that to JSON. So we're going to change this to JSON because we want to be able to decipher and pull the pieces that we need. Okay, so JSON is JavaScript object notation. It's just a simple way that we're able to communicate programmatically. Okay, so click that. Now when you do that, it allows us to actually add a schema. So click here, the schema, the name response schema, and then we can add a property. Now I can manually add a property, or I can generate again. So let's use that. So in this case here, I can say something like, this JSON will have a field called is weather, which will be a boolean, so true or false, something like that. Let's see if that's going to help. And look at that. So is weather, it's a boolean, and we have a description here. So this description just says, indicates whether this is related to weather, true or false. Okay, that works. I'm going to update. Okay, so what else do we need to do? I'm going to click here for more verbosity. That's okay. I can just say low. I don't want to do a lot of things. Summary, auto, that's fine. Everything else just leave as is. Okay, so now we have our agent and we have grounded it. We gave it instruction. It should be good. But next what we'll do is we need to add if statement here. So I'm going to pull that and then I'm going to go and find the if, just click, and then that's added. And the first thing we see is this create conditions to branch your workflow. Now here is the beautiful thing. The moment you click here, voila, we have access to all of these pieces. So we want this output parsed, which is an object, which means it has more than just one thing, okay? So we're going to get the output parsed, and then we're going to click on the field, which is weather. So what we want to do is if this output parse is weather value is equal, double quote there, to true, right? Well, that's what we're trying to say here. And then click out. You can see now we have this. I don't know why that happened. Like, get rid of that. You can see that now we have this. If whatever comes in, output parsed is weather is equal to true, then what do we want to do? Well, I'm going to click here and drag. I'm going to add yet another agent. Okay, so this agent is going to be, so I'm going to say weather agent. And the instruction here, I'm going to do the same thing like this. Okay, so I'm going to say create. Now I'm going to give the model the ability to generate the actual prompt. So I'm going to expand. Look at that. Very, very nice. So the amount of time this would have taken us to actually write ourselves would be just too much. Okay, so this is good. So check the input parameter is whether it's true. If so, use the provided weather checking tool to retrieve the weather forecast for the specific location, and it gives us all of these other cases to make sure everything looks good. Okay, let's save and see if it works. We can always go back and change things. So next model, I'm just going to make it less crazy. So reasoning low, that's fine. And tools. Now we're going to add a tool because we said that this will take in a tool. We use a tool. To add a tool, I'm going to click here, and all I need actually is a web search, and like that. Now the beauty here, I can go ahead and add certain domains such as Wikipedia, archive.org, or any weather website out there, but I can just leave as is, and then the agent's going to be able to do itself. So it's going to go and find that information itself. Okay, so add like that. And for output now, I can just leave as is. Let's see what else. Everything, that's fine. Else, just click, and then I'm going to create yet another agent. So click on this agent, and this agent, I'm going to call it generic agent, and I'm going to say this agent will take in the topic, let's say news, search, online, and then return that information. Okay, let's go ahead and create. Okay, let's go ahead and open like this. Okay, act as a new search, news research, or news search agent. You will receive topic and must perform online news search. Receive topic and output format, output JSON. That's okay. That's totally fine. Okay, so very good. And it gave us examples and all of that. This is why I love it. Let's save that. And the rest we can leave as is. I can just go back and to be consistent, use nano. Reasoning, and of course I need to add a tool so it knows same thing, web search, and I'm just going to add, I can add the website if you want to be specific, but that is fine, just let it do its thing. Okay, and if I want, I can just say JSON like this and it will do what it needs to do. Okay, there we go. So we have here a very nice flow which we can now test. Let's see if this works. I will be going to Seattle tomorrow. Should I bring an umbrella? Okay, let's see what will happen. So the idea is that this agent will classify, and then if statement is going to figure out whether what the agent spit out, it's going to be whether. If it's true, then we go to whether agent, otherwise we go to generic agent. Let's see. Okay, so it's going through. Voila, very good. It went to the weather agent. You can see everything is color. So it's whether is true, very good. If statement, now it's reasoning. So weather Seattle, Washington, very good. Tomorrow in Seattle is looking like showers off and on with. So tomorrow in Seattle is looking like showers off and on with highs around 56 and all of that. If I want, I can click and see the reasoning and the things that went through. Now, one thing you notice is that each time the response, you can see this here. So if I click, let's start with the top one. If you click in either one of these, what will happen is that you're going to see this log. So it goes back to this logs responses. This is really good because you can see exactly what happened. So you can see the instruction system instructions classify each incoming input. This is from the agent, of course, right? And then first carefully analyze the wording, then based on your analysis assign classification. So all the things that we set up for the instructions, and then response must be JSON and all of that and all the examples. So we've seen this. And then the input that came in, voila, you remember this is what we wrote. I'll be going to Seattle tomorrow. Should I bring an umbrella? And then output, of course, empty reasoning. It just doesn't show it here, but shows the final result, which is whether it's true. All right, so we can see the log of things that are happened or that have happened, which is really, really good. So if I go and click on this last one here, it should do the same. We go to the logs, gives us the system instructions. This is for the weather, of course, all the things we've seen. So this is the weather agent, okay? And we can see previous responses, but look at that. The reasoning, I need to call the weather tool to get forecast for Seattle, does a web search, and then the reasoning summarizing all the things. And the assistant, of course, comes up, then crafts the response such as this, which is exactly what we saw. Okay, so and there we have it. So now I can either create a new chat. I'm going to try that. So now I have something blank. I can say something different. What is going on in the UK? Let's see what will happen. So it should go down to the generic. Very good. And it did. So our classifier really works well. It's able to infer that indeed is whether it's probably false and went to generic. And then searching for UK news. And in a little bit, searching the web. And it should give us the answer. Look at that. And then searching this key, United Kingdom latest news, October 2025. So I think what I need to do, actually, let's clear this. The problem is that here I say JSON. Maybe I should go to text so that it's simpler because we're not doing anything afterwards anyway. So let's do again. What is going on in the UK? Okay, so it's going to go through the same process. Okay, searching the web. There you go. Okay, we have all the information here and gives us the sources, where it got all of these pieces. All right. And so if you wanted, we could have actually, if I go back here, if I were to change the format to JSON, then I would have to add a schema. That's the whole deal. Okay, so I can say again, generate, create a JSON where the response will be added as a field news, something like this. Okay, let's go ahead and run. Okay, news is going to be the news response that should be added. Let's update. Okay, there we go. And so now if I go back to preview, do the same thing. Let's say, and there you go. So you can see we indeed have the news. Here's concise, up-to-date snapshot of Portugal news and highlights. You see, it works. It's a very simple one, but it's very useful. So what I want you to do is to take this and maybe make something even better, right? So that's the point here. So next, we'll continue working and creating new agent workflows. So I have a question for you. What other use cases would you like me to cover in this channel when it comes to building these agents using this tool that we are looking into right now? Okay, just write in the comments. I would love to hear from you. So now let's look at the data nodes, because they're very important, because everything is about data, really. So what do? Well, they define and allow us to manipulate data in our workflow. And these are very important. And the ones that we have is transform and the set state. So transform, what it does? Well, transform really is useful for enforcing types to adhere to your schema, or in this case, to reshape outputs for agents. For instance, you can start with object and you want to transform that into an array and vice versa. Now, set state is really important because it allows us to define global variables, which we can actually use throughout across the workflow. So this is usually really useful for when the agent needs to take input and then be able to output something new that you'll want to use throughout the workflow. And the cool thing is that you can also define that output as a new global variable. Let's go ahead and look at these two data nodes types so we can understand when and how to use them. All right, let's start by creating a new workflow. For this workflow, we are going to look at the transform node. So let me go ahead and perhaps delete that. So I'm going to move that there and then go to transform, and there we go. But what I want to do here is something a little bit different. So I'm going to delete that connection. We can come back to that. So if you look at this transform, you can see we have a few things, right? We can reshape data, and we have the expression or object where we can add our own schema, in this case to have an output, a JSON output. We'll get to that. So what I want to do here is a good use case would be for us to have an agent, and this agent, let's just call this summarizer. Okay, and what we want to do for this agent here, I already have the instructions and they're pretty long, but it's okay, we can. So in these instructions here, see, generate an article of the given topic, then summarize the generated article in an easy to understand manner using simple language that is accessible to a general audience. So you can transform this to whatever instructions that you want, but this kind of works. Okay, so begin by analyzing the topic, organize your thoughts, do not include summary before you have reasoned through, and all of that. Okay, now there are some examples here. Now remember, I created this using that tool, the AI tool that we can just pass in our idea of what we want the instructions to be. So it's very helpful, and I really encourage you to actually do it in your own and play around with that. That is very helpful. And I have some reminders. But most importantly here, this is where you need to think about what you want the output to be. So it says here, output format, I wanted a valid JSON with the following structure. So there will be a title, which will have the title of the generated article. We have the topic, which will have the topic of the generated article. And we'll also have the raw content, which is the actual article that was generated, and the summary. Okay, so structure is something like this, and you can change to whatever you want. So this is the output JSON instructions for our agent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save. Now, what I need to do also is to make sure that I go to the output format. We're going to change this to JSON because we want to make sure that indeed we have the formats that for this to work. And so I'm going to add a schema here. Again, you can go ahead and go to advanced if you want to go and write the whole thing, or you can even generate like such. So either way, you can come here. We can manually add or generate. So I can say here, create a schema that will hold the following properties: title, topic. These have to be the same properties that we discussed or added in our instructions for this agent. And I'm going to say raw content, and then I can add also summary as such. All right, let's go ahead and create. So this will go ahead and create hopefully the schema. Look at that. So we have topic, we have title, topic, raw content, and summary, and we can add manually if you wish to do so. Very handy. So I'm going to update. Okay, so now we have our summarizer here, and what we want to do is with our summarizer, once it gets the information, puts things together, right, and returns that JSON with all those properties, what we want to do then, this is where we want to be able to transform that data into something else, reshape it. Okay, so here I'm going to click, I can go to object, which allows us to add a schema, and I can start adding properties like we saw before, and from here I can go ahead and pull pieces from the previous. Okay, so that's not going to show anything because I actually need to go ahead and connect. So the moment I connect and I click here, go back to schema, and I add the property, just test to show you. And here in the values, I can click here. Now I have access to all of this. But although this works fine, we're not really using the transform node just the way it's supposed to be used. Because at this point, if we just pull in the pieces of the previous input, it's just going to be a way of us mirroring things. Instead, I'm going to go to expressions here, and I'm going to leave key as a result. That's fine. And I'm going to go and get some pieces of code per se. But before I do that, I'm going to do something really interesting. So if you click here, you can see that you also have access to all of these pieces. Okay, so you can add a title, right? You can also go ahead and go like this. And you can go ahead and add raw and all of this. So this is really good. So what I want to do here, I'm going to say something like this. I'm going to say title, and I'm going to say plus hello there, just to show you how this works. So notice what I'm doing here, I'm concatenating whatever I have for title with some random text, which happens to be hello there. So this is a way of transforming whatever is coming. So this is just an example. So I'm going to write here and say the topic is going to be cats and dogs. I'm going to write enter. And so the summarizer is going to go ahead and create an article and do all these things. So we don't see anything really, but we see that it worked. So I'm going to add just an end node there. Let's go ahead and run something simple. Let's say coding. All right, so after a little while, you can see we have the information, the summarizer was called, and we got all the pieces. Go all the way down. We have coding result because we passed through transform, say the title of the article, and then we appended this hello there. All right, so that was just to show you the things that you can do. So if you click here again, you can see we use expression, we got the input output parse and got the title, and we add the plus sign and then hello there as a string. And click, you can see this is what we call common expression language. So if you want to learn more about it, you can just learn more at cell.dev to learn how you can structure your outputs so that it looks nice and good. So this is part of transforming your data. Now, if you wanted, you could have come here and created this schema just like we've seen before, but that's not necessary if you want to just go with expression like this. And so at this point here, what you can do is you can actually remove all of that, because we have access to all these pieces. And I have already created here the value that sort of transform the output into something that is more useful. So you can see here we have the output parse title, and we have, so whenever you want to concatenate or glue together pieces of data, in this case strings and variables, so this is what we'll consider a variable, right? Because in place of it, it's going to be whatever's coming through, in this case title. And then we have here for \n for a new line, so we're breaking the line so that things are structured correctly, formatted correctly. Okay, and so the same thing I did, topic, then I will go and pull in the topic of the article, and then I have two lines, new lines that I've broken, and then I have input, output, parse I should say, summary, and so on. And I also have added the raw content if you want. So you can pass through all of the other pieces that are coming in, right, into this. And then you can add something that says generated by your summarizer agent. So you can add whatever you want. Okay, so this is an example of how you would use Transform to reshape data from a different format, and then you can reshape it to whatever you want it to look like. All right, so now let's go ahead and get rid of this edge here because we don't need it anymore. And what I'm going to do is add yet another agent here, okay, because we have the transformation that happened, and then I can add a new agent called format agent. And so I'm going to add instructions here. So this says format the provided input into clear, well-structured markdown suitable for display in a user interface UI. Right? And also, I'm going to add this: preserve all original content, do not omit or summarize any information, organize the content with appropriate markdown elements such as headers, bullet points, number list, and all of that. So just give it more instructions. And of course, you can use that trick I showed you to create these instructions. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this. So the idea of our new agent is to get these pieces of the transformed data, which is going to be like this, right, as you saw earlier, and then make it look even better. But what also I'm going to do is we need to attach the output format. So in this case, I'm going to go to widget ChatKit, like this. So as you know, we're going to say widget, and then I can upload or create. So I already have the one, but I'm going to show you again how to create one. So I'm going to click here, and you can see that now I can create a new widget. I can use what I already have, which is a summary viewer, or you can just go ahead and describe your widget. And one thing I like to do is whenever I'm here, you can go back to transform. You can go back, for instance, to summarize and look at the content metadata. So you can actually copy or take a screenshot of this, right? And then when you come back here, you add those as you describe your widget, to add those fields or properties so that it knows how to connect everything. All right. So I'm not going to do that. You know how to do this already. So go ahead and do that. So all I'm going to do is to actually come back here and go widget, and then upload the widget that I've downloaded, which is called article widget, like that. And you can see it looks really good. So the idea is going to have the topic, article details, the title, and the summary as marked down, and voila. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a try. Here's the topic: building AI agents. Okay, so it's going to go through the process, create the content, and then summarize it. All right, so once it's done, you can see that now we have our user interface, article details, we got a topic, there it is, very nice. We have prompt, from prompt to product, a practical guide to building AI agents, and then we have to mark down with the summary. Very, very cool. All right. I love it. It looks great. All right. So now you see how to use the transform node to reshape the data into a different format, and then you can take that data and do something else that you may want to do. Let's delete that. All right. So this is a really powerful node that you should look into. And whenever you need a way to reshape your data, to transform your data into something else, always use the transform node. Okay, so now let's look at ways to deploy our agents. So I'm going to use this agent that we looked at before, or rather this agentic or agent workflow, which we have a summarizer, and then we have the transform node, and then we have the format node. So the idea is, let me go ahead and say something about cats, for instance, just an example. So this will start summarizer. So first it's going to actually generate an article about cats, okay, structuring everything, and then go through the transform node to transform this data into something different, which will then, as you see here, we have all of that, and then we should see the transform running in a bit here. Okay, and went through the transformation. So now the format agent is there, and you see, if you remember correctly, we have this nice article details about cats and a summary markdown. Okay, so the cool thing is, I'm going to get out of here, is that if you click here, you can see, we can evaluate, we talked about that, we can duplicate this workflow, we can rename it, we can do all sort of things. Let's go ahead and rename it. I'm going to say the summarizer, let's say research writer and summarizer. Okay, so I've renamed it. Now it looks like that. And so we can see also here that we can click on code. If you click on code, you can see that we have ChatKit. So you can follow the ChatKit quick start and then set things up. So what we do here is that we can actually use these workflow IDs, as I'm going to show you, to embed that into a website. Okay, so also if you look, this whole code here is exactly what we have behind this window, right? Behind this window, which is our workflow. So all of that. So this is the code that generates this. Okay, so you can actually see the code, which is really, really cool. So if you have a Next.js project set up and all of that, you can actually run this code. So let me show you here the things that you can do. But also you can see this is TypeScript, and we have option of Python. So if you are a Python developer, you can actually use Python. And so let's go ahead and follow ChatKit. So I'm going to right click and open a new tab. But what I want to do is, you can see that we have a starter app, clone a repo to get started. I'm going to click on that, and this will get us to the repo. Now this part will involve a lot of moving parts, code, and all of that. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have some tools set up on your machine. If not, I will tell you what you need to have set up. All right, now this is the part where things get a little bit interesting. Now, if you're not a coder, this may be very intimidating, but just be open-minded. If you're a coder, then this is going to be like home. Now, here's the things that you will need to have locally in order for you to be able to follow along and get this deployed locally first, at least. The first thing is, go to Node.js, just type Node.js on your browser, and you will see this. So click here, and this will allow you to install Node.js. So essentially, it's just a JavaScript library that allows you to run servers and set all these things up internally on your machine. That way you're able to run this locally. So click here, get Node.js, and then you have options here. Because I'm on Mac, it defaults to Mac. But if you're on Windows, just click here, go to Windows, and then follow the instructions on how to install on Windows. So you can see we have these commands here: download and install Chocolate, and then download and install Node.js, which is what you actually need, and then to verify, and then to verify the version like this. So just do that on your machine and you should be good. Now, sometimes you may already have these tools set up locally, and if that's the case, then it will either update or just go ahead and install everything. The next tool you need, which you will see me use in this video, is Visual Studio Code. Now, all of this is for developers. If you're not a developer, this may be daunting. Just follow along. Essentially, Visual Studio Code is what we call a coding editor. So this is where developers go and use it to write code. So go ahead and install it and set it up, and it should be good to go. All right, let's continue. All right, so what you're gonna do, we're gonna clone this repo here. So we're gonna click here and copy this link like that, okay? And then we're gonna open our terminal, okay? And I'm gonna paste git clone space and paste all of that URL. So this is gonna clone the whole starter project. I'm gonna say enter, and there we go. So if I say ls, you can see that I can say cd to OpenAI ChatKit starter like this. If I ls, you can see we have a lot of stuff. So I'm going to actually open this in Visual Studio Code. If you don't know what that is, it's just a code editor that you can download so that you can see the code and start coding there. So code space like this and the period, and this should open our project, OpenAI ChatKit starter project. We've got a lot of things here. Let's go back to see what else we need to do. Let's go back to our GitHub here, and we can read how to set this up. So the first thing we need to do is install all dependencies. So I'm going to copy this and go back either here, or I'm just going to go back to Visual Studio and open a terminal like that. So it should be inside, and paste it all that in, npm install, hit enter. So this will install all of the dependencies that are needed to run our project. Okay, looks like things ran okay. Let's go back. Okay, and then next we need to create the environment file. So what we're gonna do is copy this and create the env local, where we can actually add the information. In this case, the OpenAI API key, because it still needs that, like that. And you can see we have this .env example. Okay, now you can see that we should have the .env local, which is this one here. What we want to do here is we need to first add your OpenAI API key. So where do you find that? So if you go back to your OpenAI platform, really anywhere, go to dashboard, and you can go to API keys. So click on API keys, go ahead and just create a new API key. You can add a name and create a project if you want to, and then create that secret key. That's going to be the API key. You copy that, don't share with anybody, and then that's what you take and put here. I'm going to add mine secretly, of course, so that it's safe. Okay, so once you add your OpenAI API key here, next you need to add the public ChatKit workflow ID. What is this? Well, this is exactly what we saw earlier. So if you go back here and go to code, this is the ID that you need. So I'm going to copy that, go back to your code and add it here. And they even tell you this starts with WF, like that. So remove all of that and paste it all in there. Remember, you need to add your OpenAI API key. Okay, so once we have that, let's go back to see what else we need to do. So the next thing we need to do, it says you can get your workflow. They even tell you where you can get the workflow from. Very cool. Where you can also get your OpenAI API key, as I showed you, and configure all of these things. Very good. And then all we need to do is run the app. So I'm going to copy this, go back here and open the terminal, and then paste it all in. Let's run. Okay, so it's going to run our application locally. This is all locally for us to test. And you can see, so it's running locally here. So I'm going to command click. This is going to open it here, right? So now it's running. Look at this. Now, one thing you notice is that whenever I try to run with my previous OpenAI API key, I was getting some issues. And so what I would recommend you do, you may not run into this issue, is that you create your new secret and make sure you add that into the same project that you may have, that you've created, that is set up with your OpenAI agent builder. If you don't have that, that's totally fine. It may be a fluke, but just to make sure. Okay, so and or just always create a new API key. So, and then let's go ahead and run this npm run dev again, and command click to open, and hopefully right now it's going to load. Now you can see that we actually are running the workflow. So the workflow I chose, remember, is this one here, which is very simple: article, writer, and summarizer. So I can, from here, I can test and say, hello, make this probably a little bit larger. Hello, how are you? So this is actually going to run internally this workflow. Okay, so it's thinking. Okay, so it's looking for clarifying article, which it's not going to find really, but let's see. Okay, title is going to be hello. Let's pick a topic, not provided, and all of that. So it's probably going to ask, okay, so there we go, not provided. I'm glad to help. Okay, very good. So it's not very helpful, but you can see it even shows here with the user interface, right? That we use the widget builder to build up. So let's give it something more interesting. Following topic. I'm going to say dogs and cats. Okay, so there's a thought process. Dogs and cats, choosing, caring, and understanding our most popular pets. And there we go. The article was written. Topic is that. You can see dogs and cats. There's the title, and then the summarization, the summary of the article. All right. So as you see, it works. So we went from looking at all of this here, right, in our back end, in our agent builder, to actually having something that looks really nice running locally. So this is how you would include or embed your workflows using ChatKit. Right now, it involves a little bit of code, of course, but if you follow the instructions and you have everything set up on your end, you should be able to get this to work. The beauty here, because this is under production, by the way, you can see creates a version in the back end. If we were to add something else or modify something, okay, for instance, what will happen is, let's say I'm going to modify something here and add yet another node, which is going to be user approval. Say, are you sure you want to proceed? And as you know, I can also add context here. Let's see, with the result, with this, like that. And I'm going to put it there. So I can say, if they say yes, we go proceed. Else, I'm just going to go ahead and just end like this. Look at this. The moment I do that, I'm going to go ahead and republish. So if I publish this, look, it says it's going to be draft to new version, deployed production, like that. And now it's all deployed. You can see now version is not 1, it's version 2, because that's where we made the changes and all is there, right? And all is there. So now if I go back here, I don't have to change anything. I can come up and run this once again. Say, please write an article on trucks versus SUVs. So this should actually go ahead and go through the process again, go through the back end, right? Everything is doing, and hopefully it all goes well. We should get to a place where we'll have to be asked whether we want to continue or not. Okay, look at this. Approval required, very good. Would you like to proceed with this? All right, and gives us all these pieces. Of course, this was just an example. And then if we read, we said, okay, this is good. I can go all the way down and say accept. And then we'll continue to actually writing or summarizing the entire thing. And there we go. So I went ahead and summarized, and we are good. Very good. So each time you make changes here, all you have to do is go ahead. You can test, of course, like we've been doing, but you can go ahead and deploy. And if it's all still connected, you can just go back to your application where it's running and where it's running embedded, of course, and then test it out. All right. I hope this was helpful. And please remember, you need to go through the whole process. And they have really good instructions here on how to do it. And once you have everything set up on your computer, you're able to run these commands and you should be able to get it to run. So now I'm going to show you a trick that will allow you to actually put all the things together so that we can create a website that could be hosted somewhere and then include our agents workflow that we've built, just like going through the process we went before of embedding using ChatKit so that we can chat with our workflow. Okay, so what I'm going to be using here is Bolt.new. You can use any other AI coding tool of your choice, but Bolt.new is easy to use, is to the point, and that's what I'm going to show you right here. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing, because remember we have this this GitHub OpenAI ChatKit starter, and we also have the documentation for the ChatKit. So all of this. So I say I need you to build a landing page for a business related to writing articles for different industries. Make it modern, and I'm going to say keep in mind that in the end I would like to include a chat box on the right bottom right hand side. I'm going to say a button. When clicked, it should invoke the newest OpenAI ChatKit embeddable workflow. Let's say embeddable workflow, agent workflow. Right now, so next what I'll do here, I'm just going to put all the pieces here. Please use the following documentation for setting up ChatKit. And I'm going to go ahead and copy, or rather take all these pieces. I'm going to just copy all of that. It's a lot, that's fine. And I'm going to paste it like this. Okay. Also, for ChatKit project setup, refer to this GitHub repo. And then I go to this one here. Now this could be difficult, but I'm just going to just copy all of this, the link, and see if that's going to actually be read like this. Okay, so I have all of that. I'm going to say build now. Let's see what will happen. Okay, you can see 5 actions taken. It created this app TSX and all these files, reading, it's editing things, building the project to verify compilation, and doing all these things. So let's see in a minute. We should hopefully see something that we can take a look at. All right, so after a few moments, you can see that we have the website here. Look at that, start here. And most importantly, hopefully, if I go scroll all the way down, I can see. So I have all these pieces there. That's fine. Let's go ahead and open this in a new tab so we can see the full, say connect. You can see the full website. Okay, very good. All right. Okay, so next I'm going to say it looks great. Now add the floating button for ChatKit implementation later. Okay, just like that, you can see we have that floating button there. When clicked, look at that. This is where we'll connect to OpenAI workflow. And if I go to this main one, I'm going to refresh. And look at that. We have that there. Very good. Okay, so let's go back. And now let's say we need to focus on, let's now focus on implementing ChatKit. Here's the documentation. So I think we could probably go back here and remember this is ChatKit. I'm going to copy all of this and here is the Git repository with all the instructions you need to follow. Okay, let's see if it's going to be able to actually, I'm going to just copy all of that like this. Let's see. So you can see installing OpenAI ChatKit, React page, adding ChatKit script to index HTML. This is the plan that we'll follow. Okay, this is pretty amazing. This is the first try and it went through the whole process. So installed OpenAI ChatKit React package, which is exactly what it needs to be doing. Added ChatKit to the index HTML script and created a few things here for ChatKit internally. Create helper function to get client secret component using a use ChatKit hook, integrated ChatKit component into floating chat. This guy here, rebuild everything. But look how cool this is. We have this, all this process was written under ChatKit setup, which we can open. I'll open in a second. But look at this. What's ready? It tells us exactly the things are ready and then things to complete. This is amazing because indeed I thought I would have to come back and ask it to do it, but it didn't. So in this case here, I have to go ahead and say create a workflow in OpenAI Agent Builder and get your workflow ID, which is exactly what needs to happen, which tells me that our agent here is really good. This coding AI agent tool is really good at actually reading the documentation. Look at this and says we need to have the ChatKit workflow ID as well as the OpenAI API key to our environment. And 3, deploy the Edge function to Bolt database. Okay. So now what we can do, we're going to click here to see all the code. So you can see now we have this .env. If you open, look at this. It has indeed the Vit. Let me make this larger. You can see we need to add our Vit ChatKit workflow ID, which you know exactly how to do that. Because if you go back, okay, so we go to one of the ones, this one here. Let's go back to this one. And I'm going to click here. I'm going to copy that, exactly the same order we did before. Nothing new here if you are following us. And then I'm going to add it here. Okay, that is the workflow ID. Very good. And then I'm going to add the OpenAI key. So you know how to do that. Go ahead and get OpenAI API key, I should say, and add here. I'm going to add mine real quick. But notice the moment you add it, it just hides it so that the secret is safe. Now that I've done this, what you want to do is say, great, I have added the OpenAI API key as well as the workflow ID. So now we can go back to the preview. Okay, so it says great. Now we're going to deploy this Bolt database Edge function so the ChatKit can connect to your workflow. So it looks like they want me to add the OpenAI key. I'm going to open secret. Look at that. This is beautiful. So I'm going to add the secret here as well, OpenAI secret. In your case, it may not be the case, but it gives us all these tools so that we can add what needs to be added and move forward like that. Okay, create secret. Let's go ahead and see. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here and refresh. This is the same page. It's just that we have to reconnect everything and see if this works. I'm going to click here. Look at this, initializing chat. Okay, so it's not changing. I'm going to say I've added all the keys, secret keys, but the ChatKit keeps saying initializing chat. All right. Make sure that you followed the OpenAI ChatKit integration for this to actually invoke the agent workflow. Okay, this one. Okay, looks like it went through the whole process of hopefully fixing the issue. So let's go back. I'm just gonna open a new tab here. Connect. All right, you saw for a few seconds it said it showed up. I'm gonna start again. Look at that. What can we help you? Well, look at that. It showed up and went away. All right, so this is a very important moment of this whole process here. So there's a lot of issues that are happening and we need to fix them. But after I have done a lot of debugging and trying to figure out what was the problem, I end up figuring out what was the problem. I need you to really pay attention how to think about this and how I thought about it and how I figure out how to solve this problem. Okay, it's very important that you pay attention, otherwise you run into a lot of issues. Okay, here it is. Now, one thing that I've noticed after a lot of fights here, and I hope you won't need to do this, is that because we're using Bolt.new and this is away from OpenAI, we need to change something. So we need to go to our OpenAI platform. So if you go to platform OpenAI, go to settings, as you see there, and then go to security. So here we need to add a domain that will be whitelisted so that as we build these applications and we are trying to invoke and get the ChatKit embeddable code and everything to work, so that OpenAI in the backend allows that. So it knows that, okay, this is safe. Okay. So I've added one here. So I'm going to add a new one. So in this case, so this is not going to work, which means we actually need to go ahead and publish this app here. So I'm going to click here. And app is not published. Yes, I'm going to click and it's going to go through the process of publishing and we'll get a domain that is not ours essentially, but it's going to help us get an actual domain. So take a few moments. Okay, so we can see we have this domain here. So I'm going to right click and open this. So this is where our application is running. So I'm going to copy all of this. And hopefully this is going to help us. So let's go back to security and add domain. I'm going to paste that domain like that and generate. Very good. Okay, so now you're going to have this public key. So you need to copy that. And let's go back to Bolt. You can see at the top here, we need to go to .env. So when I click here and go to .env, and then we're going to paste that in, and then I'm going to just literally copy this and then add the actual code like that. Okay, so this is what I need to do. Let's see what else. Restart your server. Okay, so I'm going to say restart this server as I have added the API domain key. So once you have that set up, make sure that you actually go to the new domain, which you've added under your security here, right? Domain allow list. That's very important because if you keep testing, most likely it's going to not work. And if you forgot where to get that, you can just click here and you will see that you have that domain URL here. Okay. So again, make sure if you test it here, it's not going to work because it's going to always give you this test sort of domain here, which is not registered. So once you have that set up, you open your article, again, the published one, right? This domain. Yours is going to be different, of course. But once you have that, you can just click here and you can see voila. You can see what can I help you with today. So I can say, write me an article on cars and dragons. Okay, so look at that. It's actually connecting to our agent workflow that we put together, which is this one here, right? And thinking, planning article, make this a little bit larger so you can see. Okay, it's doing all the things. So this is actually set up in a website, in our own page that is running somewhere. Okay, so it's pulling all the resources. All right, so it got to the approval required here. Would you like to proceed with this engines, name embers, how cars work, and all of that? I'm going to scroll all the way down so I can approve it, right? Approve. And there you have it. Voila. You can see now it says article details, cars and dragons. The title is that. And you can see summary as marked down was distilled. Everything is good. Cars and dragons can share a world by matching each other's strengths and all of that. And all of these controls, we can click here, for instance, which gives us this. Okay, goes back to our agent, and I can click here. This is going to show us exactly what we discussed today. So all of this is actually being pulled from OpenAI, right? From this article writer and summarizer. So anything that we do here, we can change things. We can change, perhaps, maybe instead of having, would you like to proceed with this? And I can delete that. I say, would you like to proceed? Just like that to make it simpler. I can change the title. Every time we change something, we are able to go ahead and publish again. So once this is published, you can see we have different version now. V4 is the one. So I don't have to do anything. Go back to my website. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. It should be able to connect everything. I can come here. It should go ahead and load again. Look at this. I can say, write an article on Mars. Okay, so it's writing. It's going to go through the process of thinking. And because we change a few things, we no longer pull the information from what is it that the transformer is putting in, right? Got from the summarizer, which is just get a simple approve or reject. I'm going to come back here. You can see it's doing its thing. Okay, so would you like to proceed? Approve. You saw the difference now. And you can see now we have article, the red planet up close, and of course all of that. And again, all these controls, we get them. Click here, should give us all the chats from today. I can go ahead and create a new chat like this, and voila. And I can just get rid of that, and it's always there. So now you can see you're able to use ChatKit and Vibecoding, in this case using Bolt, to actually create a website and of course attach your workflow, your agent workflow that you created, and then you're able to chat with it. So whatever you do here, you can change things around, add more to your workflow, and just save and deploy. So once you deploy, you can see we have different versions. And if you want to revert to the previous version, you can just click and you will revert to that. Okay. So if you click here and deploy, it's going to revert to this version here. And the one that's green, that is the one that is in production, as you see here. Okay, this is huge. So as a small example here, you can imagine that you can do more than that. You can create a RAG system, an agent that does research or maybe communicates with your own files. We can create, for instance, something that would be a chatbot about, in this case, your website, maybe Q&A for frequent asked questions, what have you. You can do that and just connect to your website just like that. And then you can have it allow users to come in and chat with your bot. And all this interface is set up and it's here. All right, folks, so I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions at all or suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I read all of them. Thank you so much for your time. Till next time, be well.